What is the best bank or high yield savings account hub account? The first question you may be asking yourself is, what is a hub account? A hub account is a main bank account that people typically use for bank account sign up bonus deals. Some of the bank accounts that people typically mention as the best bank hub account that I've seen in forums and posts, Ally or Ally, however you say it, high yield savings account is typically shown. It has a very high daily transfer limit. So you could send hundreds of thousands of dollars per day, and it has no 6-item limit. It has a limit of 10 transfers per month, which is higher than the 6 that's offered by a lot of companies. And you can add lots of external accounts. Another bank account people typically mention is the AMEX high yield savings account. People say that they have fast ACH transfers just like Ally. It has a fairly high 4.30%. Another one that probably more people than anyone mention is the Fidelity brokerage account. The cash management account is also good, but the cash management account pays about half of what the brokerage account. With the brokerage account, you're getting roughly 5% APY. It has a very high daily transfer limit and unlimited transfers per month. So this is probably number one, and I'm going to look and see if this is still the best one. I found this article from Doctor of Credit from 2016. It lists around 150 banks. And it lists the different limitations for each of the banks as far as how much money you can push out per day, daily limits, numeric limits as far as number of transfers you can make per month. So I wanted to actually go through this and sort of update it and see if there's any other accounts that could be used as sort of a hub account. Here you can see they have a list going up to about 148. Some of these, like Ally Bank, have a very high $150,000 daily limit, where other ones may only be $2,000 for the same thing. If we look at this Amalgamated Bank, it has a daily limit of $2,000. So that's not going to be a good account for a hub bank account. And this one here only has a $5,000 limit, which is quite low. So I went through this list and I thought, okay, what's sort of a nice balance or a nice entry point? I sorted through all these accounts and I picked the ones that had a daily limit listed of at least $10,000 or more. And I selected those, and then I started to go through each of those accounts to see if they have the 6-item limit, if they have anything that would make them a good or bad hub account. So I compiled it down. I had a list. I compiled the list down to about 30. Then once I started to go through it, I started eliminating them. So in the end, the list is down to 11. So there's basically 11 contenders that you could use as a hub account that meet most of the criteria. Another criteria that they don't have listed here that I think is really important now that we're in a high interest rate environment is the annual percentage yield. I want to get a high annual percentage yield. So, I don't want to sign up for an account that pays 0.01%. I want to get 5%. So if one account pays 5 and another one pays a lower rate, I'm going to be looking towards the one that pays the higher rate. Another thing this doesn't mention is the number of accounts that you can add. Some of these may look very good on paper, and this is something I can't really get into unless I try every single bank account, because they're not going to list, the limitations on their system as far as how many bank accounts you can add. But if an account only allows you to add one account, then that's not going to be very good. Or if you can only add 3 external accounts, and then you have to start deleting them. I had a Betterment account, which wasn't like a normal bank account. It only allowed adding 1 bank account, so you couldn't add anything. It had a high annual percentage yield, but you can only add 1 external account, which isn't good. There's also, some of these banks allow scheduling, where you can actually schedule a transfer. So Fidelity, brokerage, and Ally allow reoccurring transfers. So if you wanted to transfer $1,000 a month to a bank to meet the requirement of, to meet a $1,000 a month deposit requirement, you could do that with some banks, whereas other ones may not have those features. Before I get to the list of the 11 contenders that would make for a good hub account, I want to go through the banks and high yield savings accounts that I removed. And the reason is a lot of these look good on paper, and a lot of people are going to be asking, what about Discover? What about this one? So I'm just going to show them. I'm not going to include all of them, but you'll see some of them that look like they would be good on paper as a hub account, and they actually weren't. The first is CIT Bank. This is not Citibank, it's CIT Bank. Savings Connect pays a 4.65% APY, which isn't the highest, but it's fairly decent rate. The thing about CIT Bank Savings Connect that looks good is there's no limit as far as the number of there's no limit as far as the amount of daily transfers that you can make. So if you wanted to do a $200,000 transfer a day, it looks like you can actually do it. Unfortunately, the downside of this one is there's a 6-item limit per month. So the 6-item per month limit ruins it. I mean, I did 2 transfers just the other day. I did probably 2 today, and this is just the beginning of the month. So it's going to be very easy to hit that 6-item limit. Whether or not they enforce it, that's one thing. But if it's not in writing, I'm not going to sign up for it. The next bank is FNBO Direct. That's First National Bank of Omaha Direct. This is their high yield FNBO Direct high yield online savings account. It pays a high 5.15% APY. It has a very high $100,000 daily transfer limit. Unfortunately, this one also has a 6-item monthly limit in writing. So it's going to be very easy to hit that limit. And it doesn't make sense to me that they would have a high $100,000 daily limit, but then they have a 6-item per month limit. So this one is definitely not going to be a very good bank hub account. The next bank is Brio Direct, powered by Webster Bank. I've noticed that Webster Bank powers a lot of these fintech kind of companies. This one pays a high, this is the Brio Direct high yield savings account. It pays a high 5.35% APY. It has a very high $100,000 daily transfer limit. Unfortunately, this one also has a 6-item per month transfer out limit. The next bank is called Live Oak Bank. Live Oak Bank has a very, very high $250,000 daily transfer limit. It has a fairly decent 4.40% APY. Unfortunately, this one also has a 6-item limit on the books. Please help this video out by pressing the like button, and also feel free to subscribe. I've always wanted to use Synchrony. They have a nice website. Synchrony has a very, very high $250,000 daily transfer limit. It has a high 4.75% APY. Unfortunately, it has a 6-item limit. So you do more than 6 items a month, I'm not sure what happens, but it's in writing, so I don't want to sign up with this one. Discover High Yield Savings Account is the next one. Their rates have been always lagging sort of everyone else. It's paying 4.35% APY. I had both this Discover High Yield Savings Account and I had the Discover Debit Account that pays 1%. I recently closed both of these accounts. I'm not sure what the limits are on this one. The reason I'm not including Discover Online Savings Account is the rate is a little bit on the low side, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is very slow transfers. Whenever I've had to do a transfer from my Wealthfront cash account to Discover or to pull money out, there's often a delay where it's like an extra day or two delay added. Also, there's a very high $25 minimum transfer limit. So if you're just trying to close out the account and you've got $24 in there, you can't actually take the money out. You'd actually have to send the money over to get it over 25 and then take it out, which is very annoying. I don't know any other banks that do that. The next one is called Bread Financial. This is the Bread Financial High Yield Savings Account. It pays a high 5.15% APY. I didn't look too much in the details as far as this one. I know that this one has very poor ratings. So I excluded this one based on the poor ratings, and the interface looks a little dated. When I looked at Wallet Hub, which usually has a lot of favorable ratings, it almost seems like the ratings are paid for. This one had a very low rating. You see, if I could give it 0 stars, I would. A large number of complaints. I analyzed all the high yield savings accounts recently on my website, techphinology.us. This is my website. When I actually went and looked at all the banks, when I looked at the Better Business Bureau complaints and I compared it to the total assets of the financial institution, Bread Financial was the 3rd worst out of all the companies I looked at. When I compared all these companies, you can see all the data. You looked at the number of Better Business Bureau complaints to the total assets, and there's a huge list here, probably 50 companies or more. Vero was the worst, Chime was 2nd, Bread Financial was the 3rd. This is as far as the percentage of complaints, so not very good. The next one that I excluded was SoFi. SoFi has a high yield savings account. The SoFi high yield savings account pays 4.6% APY, which isn't too bad. It's a little bit on the low side, but this does come with a major caveat. if you go to the website here and you see 4.6, oh, it looks like it's fairly easy to get, right? But this one is a big exception. And you actually have to dig down quite a few paragraphs to actually get into the nitty gritty. Basically, you won't get this 4.6% rate unless you have direct deposits to the account. And from what I understand, SoFi is very picky about what they consider a direct deposit. So maybe your real direct deposits may not even count as direct deposit. And guess what kind of rate they're going to give you? 1.20%. So none of these other accounts that I know require direct deposit in order to get the high yield APY. And that's the reason I'm excluding them. I have a list of the 11 finalists for the best hub bank account. It's Alliant Credit Union, Ally, American Express Savings, Charles Schwab Checking, Charles Schwab, Citizens Access, E-Trade Checking, Everbank, Fidelity, Laurel Road, Marcus, and Wealthfront Cash Account. You can see the limits here. This is the daily limit. Wealthfront Cash Account has a high $250,000 limit. The lowest out of all these is the Laurel Road High Yield Savings Account at $12,500. The highest would be the Wealthfront and Citizens Access at $250,000. Ally is a high $150,000 for the Ally High Yield Savings Account. As far as the high yield interest rates that they pay, the lowest is the Charles Schwab Savings Account at 0.48. Really, it should be considered a checking account at such a low rate. And then the next would be E-Trade Checking at 1.5%. Then Alliant Credit Union at 3.10. Ally's a little bit lower at 4.25. It works its way up. Citizens Access 4.5. Everbank 5.15. Fidelity around 5%. Marcus 5.4% with the referral, and Wealthfront is 5% or 5.50% with the referral bonus for 3 months. And all of these have a high limit as far as the monthly limit. The lowest is Ally with 10, which is pretty good still. The next is Everbank at 50, which I think is more than enough. All the other ones have no limits. If we look at the annual percentage yield here in a chart, the annual percentage rate is at 0 at the bottom. The bottom is the worst, the top is the best. At the very bottom, just above the bottom, is Schwab at 0.48, then E-Trade at 1.5. Alliant is the next one. Ally, the very highest is Wealthfront Cash Account with 5.50%, and Marcus at 5.4%. Laurel Road is also a high 5%. Fidelity is 4.98. Everbank is 5.15. I believe Everbank is a promotional rate also. Most of these are promotional rates except for Laurel Road, Fidelity. Marcus and Wealthfront are both promotional rates. Marcus is 4.40% without the referral code. Wealthfront is 5% now without the referral code. So Wealthfront's pretty good now without the referral code. It's still better than most of them. Now we look at Charles Schwab Bank. Why did I include them? This is actually considered they call this the Schwab Bank Investor Savings Account. I really don't consider it a savings account because it's such a low annual percentage yield. So why did I include this one? Well, I included this one. A lot of people have a lot of money in the brokerage account. Being in the brokerage account, it's very easy to get access to that money and then do a transfer. Schwab has a high $100,000 daily transfer limit on this and no limits. As far as I know, there's no limits on this one, no 6-item limit. I'm not entirely clear if there's a 6-item limit on this one. Now, it sort of looks like it's a checking account based on the low rate, but when it said savings here, I actually called Schwab and asked one of the customer service people because I couldn't find it anywhere in the disclosures. She said she didn't think there was a 6-item limit. I don't think there is either, but this would definitely not be my first choice. And I actually have a Schwab account and I've actually done transfers with this. The problem with Schwab is it has a very large, when you add a Schwab bank account, there's a delay. They have a hold on the account of several days. And I think it took me a whole week to basically transfer money. I would say it's one of the slowest I've had to deal with. So I definitely would not use Schwab. That and the low rate, they're locking up your money and you're getting very little in the process. The next one is also kind of in a similar boat. It's 1.5% APY. It's the E-Trade by Morgan Stanley. This is the checking account, not the high yield savings account. The high yield savings account from E-Trade has a 6-item limit per month. The checking account does not have that limit. The great thing about this account is it has a high $100,000 daily limit and there's no numeric limit as far as the number of transfers you can make going out. So this is the reason why I'm adding this one, but it wouldn't be a first choice either based on the 1.50% APY. However, if it's linked to your bank account, you've sold stock or ETF, you have quick access to the money, this may be something to try out. The next one I probably wouldn't have included either if it hadn't have been for all the people that I've seen in the forums mentioning that they see Alliant Credit Union as a hub bank. Now, at 3.10% APY, that's just really low in today's environment. This one has a $100 minimum balance, which is also above what most people are at now. I think Fidelity's zero. So what is so great about Alliant? A lot of people mentioned that it's easy to add accounts and they do very fast ACH transfers. In fact, Alliant is one of the few banks that I've seen that's been advertising this thing called same-day ACH. There's a thing that's called same-day ACH, and eventually all banks are going to be doing this, but right now it's still like in a phase rollout. So I contacted Wealthfront Cash Accountant. They will be doing this very shortly. They will be implementing this very shortly, but this is one they've been advertising it for a while. So Alliant processed nearly all of ACH transfers within 1 business day. With same-day ACH, all ACH transfers sent from your originating financial institution by 1:45 p.m. will post by 5 p.m. the same day. So that's fairly nice. I believe Fidelity has this already. They haven't confirmed it, but I've seen it myself when I've done transfers. I've done transfers in the morning. By the afternoon or by 5 o'clock, it's already posted to the bank. And if it hasn't cleared, by the next day, it'll be posted to the account and cleared. Alliant has a fairly high $25,000 daily transfer limit, and there's no limit as far as the number of transfers you can make out. There's no limit as far as the number of external transfers you can make per month. Ally High Yield Savings Account is the next one. It pays 4.25% annual percentage yield. It has a very high $150,000 daily transfer limit, and it has a limit of 10 transfers per month. Ally and Fidelity and AMEX are probably listed more than any other as far as being a hub bank account. What people like about Ally is they say that it has fast ACH transfers. They say that you can add lots of bank accounts, and you can also do scheduling where you can actually schedule reoccurring transfers. So for example, if you have to do $2,500 transfers every month to meet a particular bank bonus, you can do that with Ally. Now, Fidelity also has the same thing that you can do, and Fidelity pays a higher rate. Now, I did have an Ally account, and unfortunately, I didn't have a very good experience with them. I had the Ally Invest account, and I had the Ally High Yield Savings account. And it's probably one of my worst experiences as far as with the bank account. It was basically unusable. Due to my use of the Google Voice phone number on my smartphone and most of my devices, they basically had blocked it. So whenever I would go to log in, I would have to call them. I would have to talk to somebody. They blocked all the text messages, so I couldn't do text verification. They blocked voice call verification, which a lot of companies, if they block the text, you can get a voice call and do the verification that way. Ally blocks both of those, and they block voice over IP numbers. So I had to call customer service just to log in or to add a different bank account. I would have to call them. They would go through a verification process, a 5-question and 5 answers. And if I knew the answer as far as like which address did you live at, I couldn't just give them the answer. I had to listen for them. I had to wait for them to read through every single particular option. 5 times 5, that's 25 options. I had to go through every single option, so it was very annoying. And also, I found that the interface was a little bit slow, a little bit clunky. There seemed to be latency when you would load the interface. They couldn't even send a transfer from the Ally Invest account. I had already sold the stocks. The money had been cleared. They put a hold sending money from my Ally Invest account to the savings account. I mean, who does a hold on their own accounts? It was going between Ally accounts. It wasn't going outside, and it wasn't a large amount. And when I eventually closed the account, of course, I had to go through them, and I just had the customer service do the closing. Because, anytime I try to make any changes, it's like you have to call them up and go through 25 options. They closed the account, but a month later, I had $50 taken out of my account and go to Ally after my account was supposedly closed. Part of the promo was you had to do these $50 transfers for several months, and that was still in place. When they closed the account, they didn't close that. So I had to contact customer service again, go through the 25 options, and then they refunded the money back and apparently fixed the problem, but I don't have much faith in Ally. Maybe you would have better luck. The next one is the AMEX High Yield Savings Account. This one was also listed in a lot of the forums. A lot of the old listings mentioned this one. It has a 4.30% APY. It has no limit as far as the dollar transfers you can make per day, and also no limit as far as the number of transfers you can make in a month. So there's no 6-item limit on this one, which is nice. I've also heard that the transfers are fairly fast and that you can add accounts fairly easily. I'm not a big fan of the 4.30% APY rate. I think it can be better. The next one I found is called Citizens Access. Don't make the mistake of just going to the regular Citizens Bank website, because there's a domain that's citizensbank.com, and then this one is called citizensaccess.com, and they have different products. So Citizens Access has higher rates. I believe maybe it's an online only option, but it has a 4.50% APY rate. Now that's not the highest rate, but Citizens is a larger company. This one has a high $250,000 daily transfer limit. That's what got my attention on this one. And it has no limit as far as the number of outgoing transfers you can go. So as far as a big company, a fairly large company that has no 6-item limit, this is kind of an exception right now. As far as the interface goes, I haven't used this account. I'm not sure if they're going to block the accounts if you start doing a lot of transactions, or how fast the transactions are. But on paper, it looks pretty good so far. Another one that I found called Everbank. This is also, I believe, one called TIAA is now Everbank. It has a high 1-year intro APY of 5.15%. It has a high $50,000 daily transfer limit. It has a 50-item limit as far as the number of external transfers you can make per month. I think 50 is more than enough. Now, as far as this interface, I haven't used this one. I'm not sure how well they work or how far the transfers are, but the high limit and high number of transfers is definitely one that I would be interested in. The next one is the Fidelity brokerage account. Now, this is the Fidelity brokerage account using either the SPACs, which is the Fidelity Government Money Market Fund, which pays 4.98%. I believe there's another one that you can do called FCash. It's 4.97. Either one of these are almost 5%. This is probably my number one pick so far. It has a high $100,000 daily transfer limit. It has very fast ACH transfers. I would say probably same day ACH. Although Fidelity hasn't confirmed this officially, I've been seeing same day ACH. If I do a transfer in the morning, the money will show up in the account by the afternoon typically. There's no limit as far as the number of transfers you can make per month. Unlike Schwab, which does a hold when you add an account, there's no hold period. Once you get the account verified, you could send out the money right away, which is great. And the transfers are quick. The interface is good. There's also scheduling. You can schedule a transfer, so many transfers a month. Unlike some of the other accounts, even though I've done a lot of transfers, they don't block my account. Like I had an account with Betterment Cash Reserve account. As soon as I did one transfer out, like $1,200, I added the account and I did a transfer out. They blocked the transfer, and I didn't check the email, and it was just sitting in the account for like a week, not earning any interest. And then they asked for an explanation what I was doing. So I've never had that issue with Fidelity or any other account. That's another reason why I like Fidelity. The execution and the customer service is very good. They have a Reddit page. Fidelity has a Reddit page where they actually employ Fidelity customer service people to answer questions, and they'll answer very technical questions that a lot of companies would probably not answer. So they'll answer questions there, or you can contact them over the phone, where they typically automatically recognize your phone number based on your voice and your number. So you don't have to go through a zillion questions, and the customer service is top notch. So that's why I think I'm still leaning towards Fidelity brokerage account being the number one bank hub account for bank bonuses. I want to mention that there's also a Fidelity cash management account, which is an FDIC insured account. I haven't tested it, but I believe the speed is around the same as far as the same day ACH. I typically use this one because the rate is about twice what the Fidelity cash management account is. Now, the Fidelity cash management account is FDIC insured. This one is a brokerage account, so it's SIPC insured, which isn't as good technically, but I still think this is very safe. I'm not worried about the money. So I prefer using this one over the cash management account, although I have both accounts. The next one I added is the Laurel Road High Yield Savings Account. Now I added this one and not the checking account because this one pays an interest rate. the checking account doesn't pay an interest rate. This pays a high 5.0% annual percentage yield, and it doesn't have the highest transfer limit. It has a fairly low 12,500 daily transfer limit, but I think for most people that's probably fine, especially if you're just getting into bank bonuses. It's probably more than enough, and it has no 6-item transfer limit. So if you need to send out more than 6 transfers a month, no problem. However, I have an account with this one, and I do have a problem with them, and adding the accounts sometimes can be slow. The micro deposits that are sent can be, several days slower than what Fidelity is. Also, I've had to do a transfer. I did one transfer. I added a bank account. It didn't send any micro deposits, and I thought, great. And then I went to do the transfer, and it took like 3 days or so. It took a couple days longer than what Fidelity took. So even though it didn't require the micro deposits, it was very slow. And then I did another bank after that I added, and it actually required the micro deposits, and that was slow, the verification process. So slow transfers, this is definitely not a top tier hub account based on that. But if you already have this account, if you've signed up for one of the promos and you've got this account and you want to try it out, it's there. It's an option, I suppose, if you don't mind the slowness. The next one, Marcus by Goldman Sachs high yield savings account should be a top one, and it sort of looks, on the surface, it appears to be one of the best. Now, it has a 4.40% APY, which isn't the best, but you can very easily get a referral code. Actually, I have one, I'll put it in the description, where you're going to get 3 months, a 1% boost for 3 months, and then you can keep referring others. So that boosts this to 5.40% APY, which is a great rate. And this one has long had no 6-item limit, which is great. It also has a very high $125,000 daily transfer limit. Unfortunately, it does have some problems. For example, anytime I log into my Wealthfront cash account or Fidelity, it doesn't require me to put in a text code. Every time I go to log into Marcus, guess what? I have to put in a text code. The text code is about a minute delayed. So you have to wait around twiddling your fingers to get the text code before you can do this. And every time you have to log in, if you've got to get a text code, it becomes a major annoyance. That's annoyance number one. Here you can see here, I just tried logging in. Now it's asking for a code. And the code is not going to appear for probably 30 seconds to a minute, which is way slower than most of the other companies. That was one thing, but other people have complained that Marcus actively deploys anti-hub countermeasures. Don't use them unless you want deposits pulled, bank account locked up, 2-hour, 3-way calls, etc. So this guy's not the only one that mentioned it. I saw some other people here mentioning this. So on paper, it looks like they're allowing for lots of transfers, adding maybe lots of accounts, but then once you start actually using it, then you may have issues. Agreed with JD that Marcus is now crap. After the recent bonus, I lowered my holding there to $15. Here's another one. I never had trouble pulling in money from Marcus, but they gave me a hassle almost every time I tried to push. They debit the money, but they won't approve the withdrawal, so you have to wait a few days for the money to be refunded to your account unless you agree to a 3-way call. Definitely not good as a hub. So there you go. The execution for the Marcus high yield savings account is not good. If you're going to need a babysitter every time you do a transfer, that's not good. The next one is, I believe it's the highest yield one right now. This is the Wealthfront cash account. They increased the rate to 5% on Friday, which is today. And so anybody that signs up without a referral code will get this 5% rate. However, if you use my referral code, you'll get a 0.5% boost for 3 months, and then you can refer others and keep it going. And I also get a boost going for another 3 months. So check my link in the description for that. Now, this is the one that I probably use primarily as my main bank account, the Wealthfront cash account, and I'm getting 5.50% APY. So this one should be number one as far as, the number one hub account, right? Well, it does have some issues. The main issue that I have with them is their ACH transfers are about a day slower than Fidelity, maybe a day or two. So if I were to send something with Fidelity, it may be there the first day, the second day. If I do it with Wealthfront cash account, probably another day or two. That's issue number one. The second issue, and probably a bigger issue, is adding the bank accounts. I've had many bank accounts, particularly these smaller credit unions that most people have never heard of. When you go to add a credit union on this Plaid system, it just won't ever go through. You put in the code, it won't go through, it won't get added. I'll go to Fidelity, add the same bank, it goes through no problem. I've had that happen at least 3, 4, 5 times. So if you can't add certain banks and there's no backup method to add it, you're not going to be able to send money to a lot of these banks or credit unions. So Wealthfront cash account is out as a hub account based on that. Now, if it's a larger company, you may be able to add the bank account not without having an issue, and that'll be great. But a lot of these deals are smaller credit unions, smaller banks. They're ma and pa kind of banks, and Plaid seems to have issues with Wealthfront cash account adding them. So I would say my number one choice is Fidelity based on that. So I had a lot of people mention I wouldn't use Ally because I couldn't even use them. Based on my weird use of Google Voice numbers, it basically just throws a monkey wrench in their process and makes it unusable for me. They're blocking all the cheap cell phone providers or voice over IP numbers, so I'm not going to use them. I had execution problems with them. Also, they're paying a lower rate. Why choose 4.25% APY when you can get 4.98? I think, maybe a long time ago, maybe before Fidelity started, offering all these features, maybe Ally was better back then. But right now, Fidelity is more competitive. Why would I do, American Express high yield savings at 4.30% APY when I can get, 5% with Fidelity and do the same thing in probably the same amount of time? So I just see Fidelity as being a better option. Now, I do have one complaint about using the Fidelity brokerage account as a bank bonus hub account. And that complaint is when you log into the interface to actually see the activity of your transfers, as far as the transfers that you have coming in from other banks and the money you have going out. Since Fidelity is doing so many things, you can buy stocks with them, you can do, various other things. It's sort of a cluttered mess in the account. So if you're just trying to look up activity, it's probably not going to show up on the first page. Whereas if you sign up with Ally or American Express high yield savings, you're probably on the main page, you're going to see all the activity, or maybe just one click away. Whereas with Fidelity, you're going to have to click maybe 2 or 3 times in order to find that information. So the organization is a little bit messy with Fidelity. However, everything works. It's a fast interface. With the Wealthfront cash account, it's got a very simple interface. You're going to be able to go to the main page, see all of the transfers. You're going to be able to see all of the withdrawals, all the deposits on the main page without having to do much clicking. However, if you can't add certain bank accounts, and when you go to actually do a transfer to a bank, if it takes a day or 2 longer, that's a problem. So I like Fidelity because it works. It may be a little clunky when you have to click a couple times more, but I think it's well worth it. And that's why I'm giving Fidelity brokerage account my number 1 award for the best hub account. I have a referral offer where we can each make $200. What do you have to do to get this $200? You have to sign up. You have to contact me. Check out my link in the description for instructions on how to do this. I'll put a link to my contact page on the website. All I need for the referral is your first name, your last name, and email address. And luckily, my contact form has all this information, and then just maybe mention something in the comments that you want to sign up to Blue Peak. It'll automatically send you an email from Blue Peak. You sign up with that email, make sure to check in the spam folder. Blue Peak will send you a referral email. You click on that, you sign up with a checking account and a savings or a money market account. You've got to do both. And then within 90 days, receive at least 2 direct deposits totaling $500 or more. So basically, you could have 2 $250 direct deposits as long as they total $500 or more. Depending on how you read or interpret this, maybe just to be safe, do 2 direct deposits of $500 or more. You and your friend both receive $200 in your Blue Peak account, and this is within 10 days after you meet this criteria. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and press that notification bell so that you get notified when I put out new content. Have a good one.